Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is your teacher Naveed Anjum Naveed with yet another lesson on nouns. In our previous lessons on nouns, we learned what nouns are. In today's lesson, we'll learn what they do. We'll be talking about rules of nouns in sentences. Understanding rules of nouns in sentences is extremely important in performing successful sentence analysis. And we know that most of our grammar questions in our examination are related to sentence analysis. So today's lesson is very, very important as well. Nouns are one of the two major building blocks of English language, the other one being verb. In every sentence, we speak sentences, we write sentences in language, and in every sentence, somebody or something either does something or is something. Every sentence is about somebody or something. Now that somebody or something has to be a noun or a noun equivalent. And here we come to the first rule of a noun in sentence. As we have just said, that every sentence is about somebody or something. That somebody or something is the subject of the sentence. This is the basic definition of the subject. That subject is the person or thing about which the sentence is. And the subject has to be either a noun or a noun equivalent. Let's have a few examples. Afzal is frying potatoes. Maybe he couldn't find chicken, so the poor Afzal is frying potatoes. If I asked you, who or what is this sentence about? If you answer potatoes, it does not necessarily mean that you don't know the right answer. Maybe you're hungry, maybe you like potatoes more than Afzal, but the fact is that the sentence is about Afzal. Afzal is frying potatoes. He is the person who is doing something in this sentence. So Afzal is the subject of the sentence, and we know that it is proper noun. Next example, Salma is my cousin. Who is this sentence about? This is about Salma. And Salma too is a noun. The boy saw a scary dream. Now, what is this sentence about? This is about boy. And boy is also a noun. Afzal and Salma are proper nouns. Boy is a common noun. So you see, all the subjects in these three sentences, the subjects of all these three sentences are nouns. So this is one of the basic major rules of nouns in sentences, that nouns function as subject of the sentence. The next major rule of noun in sentences is object. Object has got two basic types, object of verb and object of preposition. Object of verb has got two further types, direct object and indirect object. Object of verb is the person or thing on which the action indicated by that verb is performed. Object of preposition is the noun or noun equivalent that comes after that preposition, and the preposition shows its relationship with the word that comes before that preposition. We have already talked about objects of verbs and objects of prepositions in our previous lessons. Let's have examples now. Afzal is frying potatoes. Now what's the subject here? Afzal. What's he doing? Frying. Now what is being fried? What is the thing on which this action of frying is being performed? Of course, potatoes. So potatoes by definition is the object of a verb, frying. Look at the next example. The boy saw a scary dream. What's the subject here? Boy. What did he do? Saw. And what did he see? Dream. So dream is the noun, the thing on which this action of saw or the action of seeing is being performed. So object of verb, saw. Next example. Fahad gave his cousin a red rose. Fahad is the subject here in this sentence, and he is giving. He gave. So give is the verb, the action. Let's see on what or whom this action of giving was performed. So what did he give? Rose. And whom did he give? Cousin. Now both these nouns are the objects of verb give. There are just a few verbs in English language, there are not too many, which can take two objects at the same time. One of the objects is direct object and the other one is indirect object. Direct object is the person or thing on which the action is directly performed, and the indirect object is involved in the action on the receiving end of the action indirectly. Over here, rose is the noun. Rose is the thing on which the action of giving was directly performed, and cousin received the rose. He received the action indirectly. So cousin is indirect object. The next example, Sarmat lives in town. What's the subject in this sentence? Sarmat. What does he do? Lives. Now, if you're thinking that town is the object of lives, you're wrong. Lives does not have an object in this sentence. Remember that action verbs or main verbs in English language have two major types, transitive and intransitive. Transitive verbs are the ones that require an object to make complete sense, and intransitive verbs don't have their objects. There are ways, there are tips to identify objects of verbs in sentences. If the verb has got an object, we'll consider it a transitive verb, and if there is no objective verb, the verb will be intransitive. Now, how to identify? Let's discuss the tip. You'll make a what or whom question using the verb in the sentence. If the question makes sense and if you find an answer to that question in the sentence, the answer to the what question or whom question will be the object of that verb. For example, Afzal is frying potatoes. What's the verb in this sentence? Frying. So, Afzal is frying what? What is he frying? The question makes sense and the answer is there. The answer is potatoes. So, potatoes is the object of verb frying. The next sentence, the boy saw. Now, what did he see? We are making a what question with the verb saw. What did the boy see? The answer is there, dream. So, dream is the object of verb saw. Take the next sentence. Fahad gave. What did he give? Rose. So, rose answers the what question. So, it's the object of verb gave. And whom did he give? Cousin. Cousin answers the whom question. So, cousin is also the object of verb give. But if I say, what does Sarmat live? In fact, the question doesn't make much sense. In some cases, these questions, what question and whom question, will make sense, but you won't find an answer to these questions in the sentence. And in such sentences, these verbs will be intransitive verbs. What does Sarmat live? Basically, the question is nonsense. It doesn't make much sense at all. And additionally, we don't have any answer to this question in this sentence. In town answers the question where. Where does he live? And in town as a prepositional phrase is functioning as an adverb phrase also, adverb of place. There is no answer to the question what or whom. Therefore, lives is an intransitive verb. There is another tip that you need to remember, another very important point. Prepositions don't come between verbs and their objects. Wherever there is a preposition, the noun or noun equivalent that comes after that preposition will be the object of that preposition and not of the verb that comes before that preposition. Prepositions must not come between verbs and their objects. So, there is another indication that lives is an intransitive verb and town is the object of preposition in. Now, look at all these words in yellow font: potatoes, dream, cousin, rose, town. All these words are nouns and all of them are functioning as objects of some kind in these sentences. Objects of verb, direct and indirect both, and object of preposition. Look at this sentence. Subhan bought a pen for his father. Here we've got both examples in the same sentence. Subhan is the subject, bought verb. What did he buy? Bought is the action that Subhan performed. And what did he buy? Pen. So we can make a what question and we have the answer to that what question in this sentence, and the answer is pen. So pen is the object of verb bought. But can I say that Subhan bought his father? Well, you can't buy your father. Fathers are not for sale. Fathers and sons just happen to be there. They are just biological accidents. So he didn't buy his father. Father is not the object of verb bought. Look at the sentence carefully. For his father. Which part of speech is this word for? It's preposition. And father is the object of preposition for. So pen and father, they are also nouns and they are also used as objects in this sentence. So we can conclude that nouns have got their major function, two major functions we have discussed so far: subject and object. Nouns function as subjects of sentences very commonly, and similarly they function as the objects of verbs and objects of prepositions as well. These two roles, subject and object, are the basic major roles of nouns in sentences. A noun may also function as a complement. A complement is something that completes something else. Notice the difference in spelling. It is C-O-M-P-L-E, not I. Complements are also of two types: subjective complement and objective complement. Subjective complement comes after a linking verb, whereas objective complement comes after the object of a verb. Without complement, the sentences are not complete. They are not the same. Let's have examples. Salma is my cousin. Now, what's the subject of this sentence? It's Salma. If I say Salma is full stop, the sentence will not make a complete sense. It will actually not be called a sentence at all. So, what's this cousin doing here? Cousin is completing the sentence. It's the complement, subjective complement. Why do we call it subjective complement? Because it is about the subject. In fact, a sentence is about a person or a thing, and that person or a thing, the person or the thing, that's the subject of the sentence. So it contains the subject and some information about that subject. This complement in such sentences is the information that we are given about the subject of the sentence. And linking verbs simply join the subject with whatever we are told about the subject in these sentences. Basically, these linking verbs are non-action verbs. There is no real action taking place in these sentences. These verbs simply join, they simply link the subject and the complement. There is no real action. These are the sentences in which the subject is not doing anything. The subject is something. We talked about these two basic types of sentences, that in every sentence, the subject either is something or does something. Now, these are the sentences in which the subject is something. When the subject does something, you have action verbs. And when the subject is something, you have linking verbs. The most commonly used linking verb in English language is verb be, with all its forms. Be is am, are, was, were, been, and being. Whenever all these forms, any of these forms of verb be is used without a main verb, we call it linking verb. There are some other linking verbs also. We'll be talking about them later. We'll have a separate lesson on linking verbs alone. Over here, this much is enough, that linking verbs are basically non-action verbs. No action is taking place, nothing is happening. The subject is not doing anything. The subject simply is something. And these verbs, they join the subjects and whatever we are told about the subject. And whatever we are told about the subject is the complement, because without that part of the sentence will be incomplete. So Salma is the subject, is linking verb, and cousin complement. Look at the next sentence. The man was a thief. Man is the subject, was linking verb. He did nothing. Thief is a noun, cousin is a noun. And both these nouns are functioning as subjective complement. Why? Cousin is about Salma and thief is about man. The next example, they elected him captain. Now, what's the subject of this sentence? They. Now, is this sentence telling us what they did or what they are? What they did. They elected. Elected is the verb, and here we have got an action verb. Now, on what or whom was this action of electing performed? They elected him. So, him is the object of elected. And they elected him as captain. As is missing here. As is not there. So, captain is about him. They didn't elect the captain. They elected him. The captain wasn't there. The captain actually, he became captain as a result of their election. They didn't elect the captain. They elected him as captain. And without this captain, the sentence will not be the same. Captain is completing the sense of the sentence, but this captain is not about they. It's about him. And him itself is the object of verb elected. So, captain, because it's telling us about him, it's completing the sense or meaning of him. So, it's objective complement. This one is different. Subjective complements come after linking verbs, and objective complements come after objects of verbs. You will find all objective complements in this position: subject, main verb, object of the verb, and a noun, and sometimes there will be an adjective also, completing the sense and telling us about the object of that verb. It's here you'll find objective complements. So nouns have got this function also, just like their previous two functions. They very easily, very commonly function as complements of both kinds: subjective complement and objective complement. Many students confuse objective complement with direct object when the verb has got two objects: indirect object and direct object. We need to clear the confusion. Apparently, the difference between these two appears to be very, very thin, but actually it's not. Let's have the examples first. Grandma told us a story. The girl showed me her shirt. They elected him captain. The principal appointed her chief proctor. Now we have got four very similar sentences, and the nouns in yellow font in all these four sentences fall into the same slot. They all occupy the same position in these sentences. Yet, two of them are direct objects and the other two are objective complements. Now, what's the difference? We need to keep one point in our mind and we'll never get confused. Direct object is the person or thing on which the action is directly performed. It does not come into existence as a result of that action. It was already there. But that's not the case with the objective complement. Objective complement is something that comes into existence as a result of the action. It wasn't there already. It didn't exist previously. Now we'll judge these four sentences by these standards. Grandma told us a story. Now, was the story already there, or did the story come into existence as a result of telling? No, it was already there. Grandma knew the story. And she had already told the story so many times. The story was already there. Same is the case with shirt. The girl showed me her shirt. The shirt didn't come into existence as a result of showing off maybe. It was already there. But that's not the case with captain and chief proctor. They elected him as captain. He wasn't the captain before the election. They elected, and as a result of that election, he became captain. Same is the case with the next sentence. The principal appointed her chief proctor. No one was the chief proctor previously. Maybe somebody else was the chief proctor, but she was not the chief proctor. Previously, the principal performed this action of appointing her chief proctor. The action of appoint was performed. And as a result, this chief proctor became possible. This is the difference. The shirt and the story, which are direct objects, they are not dependent on the action for their existence. Whereas objective complements depend on the action for their very, very existence and possibility. That's the difference. If you keep this one point in your mind, you'll never get confused between objective complements and direct objects. Another function of noun is noun modification. And the commonest way of doing so is by showing the possession of another noun. All nouns and pronouns in possessive case are noun modifiers. But there could be other examples when a noun is not in possessive case and yet it's modifying another noun. Some grammar books argue that such nouns are also in possessive case, but the apostrophe s is not there. Look at these two examples. I borrowed Uzma's books. Uzma's Uzma is a noun, apostrophe S, an indication of its being a possessive case. It's in possessive case and it's modifying the noun books. Uzmas, the books are of Uzmas. That's the quality of the books that they belong to Uzma. So belonging to Uzma is also a characteristic of the books, and all words which tell us about the characteristics or qualities of nouns, we call them noun modifiers. They're called adjectives, but obviously there are so many other types of words which function as noun modifiers. So noun modification or noun modifier is a broader term. Uzmas is not an adjective, it's a noun, possessive case of noun Uzma, and it's showing the possession of books, and by showing the possession of books it's adding something to the meaning of books, so we call it a noun modifier. The next example, we went to a toy shop. Toy is modifying shop. Shop is also a noun. Even though the argument is given that nouns without apostrophe S can also function as possessive case, they are not just as possessive as nouns plus apostrophe S, because books belonged to Uzma, books were in possession of Uzma, books were owned by Uzma, but shop is not owned by toys. Toys don't possess the shop, they are sold there. So we can say that toy is in possessive case. We can also say that toy is modifying the noun shop because of a close association. So nouns also modify other nouns because of close association. Let's have another example. They built a stone wall. Over here again, stones don't own or possess the wall. They are used to build the wall. The wall is built with stones. Yet they built a stone wall. Stone is the modifier of wall. One noun modifying another noun. Whether we accept them, toy and stone, as possessive nouns or not, they are all Uzmas, toy and stone. They are modifying the following nouns. So nouns very commonly, whether in possessive case or otherwise, they are very commonly used to modify other nouns. Such examples in English language are very common. We need to clarify over here that subject and object are the exclusive roles of noun. If a word which is not a noun functions as the subject of a sentence or object of any kind, it's declared an equivalent. Nothing else can function as subject and object. But that's not the case with complement and noun modifier. These two roles are shared. They don't exclusively belong to nouns. Other parts of speech, especially adjectives, also function as noun modifiers and complements. Let's have examples. Sarah is a girl. Girl is a noun and subjective complement. Sarah is the subject, is linking verb, and girl complement. Look at the next sentence. Sarah is happy. Happy, we know, is not a noun. It's adjective. Unless it's happy sing with a capital H, it's not a noun. It's just adjective. And it's having the same function, the same role. Sarah's subject is linking verb, happy complement. Look at the next sentence. Sarah is a school girl. Sarah is subject, is linking verb, girl, subjective complement, and a noun. And school over here is functioning as a noun modifier. It's modifying girl, noun, girl is being modified by this noun, school. Look at the next sentence. Sarah is an intelligent girl. Now we have replaced school with another word, intelligent, which is an adjective. Basically, noun modification is the basic role of adjectives, not of nouns. When nouns modify other nouns, they are not doing their own work. They are doing the work of adjectives. Noun modification, this function basically belongs to adjectives, not to nouns. So whenever nouns function as modifiers of other nouns, they are doing the job of another part of speech, adjective. Look at the next example. They made me their leader. Leader is a noun, and in this sentence, it's objective complement. They subject, made verb, me object, and leader objective complement. They made me happy. It's the same sentence. Now leader has been replaced with happy. And happy is also objective complement, but it's not a noun. So the point that we want to make over here is that while subject and object are the roles that exclusively belong to nouns, this is not the case with the other two roles, complement and noun modifier. These two roles are shared. If a word functions as the complement of any kind, complement, subjective complement or objective complement, or as a noun modifier, it does not necessarily make it a noun. But if a word functions as the subject of a sentence or an object of any kind, it makes it a noun. That's the difference. We need to remember that subject and object are exclusive basic roles of nouns. The other roles are not. They are optional and they are shared. And now is your turn. It's activity time. You have to identify the role of noun in yellow font. Take your time. Don't go ahead. Pause the video here. Attempt the activity. Note down your answers. The answer key is following. That's at the end of the video. But don't look at the answer key in advance. I've already warned you several times. Just stop here. Pause the video. Do the activity. And then move on. Hopefully you've done your work. You must have noted down your answers. You must have completed the activity. The answer key is following. I hope all your answers are correct. Look at the answer key, match your answers, be happy, stay home, and stay safe. Thank you. Allah Hafiz. See you later.